Colorado Senate Republicans have fought attempts to expel a senator accused of sexual harassment. And then today, suddenly, they allowed the debate to happen. So as we speak, the legislature is considering its second expulsion in a month, something that hadn't happened in a century before Democrat turned Republican Steve Lebsock was kicked out of the House. Now it is State Senator Randy Baumgardner in the balance. Our Marshall Zellinger just stepped outside the Senate chambers for us. So, Marshall, you got this investigation that determines it's more likely than not that Senator Baumgardner harassed a former aide. His bosses sent him off to sensitivity class.
And we don't know what happened in that sensitivity class, and Senate Democrats weren't happy that that was all that was going to happen. It's happening behind these closed doors that just got shut behind me inside the state Senate. We're apparently going to be too loud out here, but there is a live web stream of what's happening on the floor of the state Senate. It was State Senator Nancy Todd just a moment ago from Aurora who was in the well. That's what it's called by the microphone. So far, Democrats are talking at the microphone, giving their reasons why Baumgardner should be expelled. And all of this started when this bill's sponsor, the resolution sponsor, State Senator Irene Aguilar, called for the 3-page resolution to be read aloud so everyone would know why they want Baumgardner expelled.
Whereas on November 28, 2017, a former legislative aide at the Colorado General Assembly filed a formal complaint alleging that Senator Randy L. Baumgardner had grabbed and slapped her buttocks on 4 separate occasions during the 2016 legislative session.
That was just one paragraph of probably 1.5 to 2 dozen paragraphs. While Democrats stood during that, none of the Republicans did. And while that was being read, Senator Baumgardner himself just sat and followed along as the allegations why the Democrats want him expelled were read aloud. The state Senate has 35 senators, so the math that has to add up. Right now there are 18 Republicans, there are 16 Democrats, and there is 1 independent. They're going to have to come together if all of the senators want him expelled, because it takes a supermajority, 2/3. That means 24 senators will have to vote yes to expel. This could go a while. I'm told every senator is allowed 10 minutes at the microphone, and if they go longer than 10 minutes the first time, they don't get a second chance, but you get a second opportunity. So consider it 20 minutes per lawmaker times 35 senators. It could be a long night here, Kyle.
And Marshall, for everybody who thinks that there's no chance that the senator is going to get expelled, there was significant doubt about whether Representative Lebsock would get kicked out when the debate began.
Yeah, we had heard that the Democrats called that for a vote because they wanted it known. They didn't appreciate that kind of behavior, but they weren't sure they had the votes to get it done. Here, what I'm hearing inside the Capitol is there's not belief that there's 24 votes, but there's a lot to be said, and that's what turned it for Lebsock.
All right, Marshall Zellinger. Thank you, Marshall. Brief note to update you on the case against the man accused of killing 3 people at the Walmart in Thornton. He was ruled competent to stand trial by a judge today after a mental evaluation. We remember on this occasion Pamela Marquez, Carlos Moreno, and Victor Vasquez, who were killed that day in November. The accused shooter will be back in court in June. Today marks 2 weeks since Mauricio Venzor-Gonzalez escaped from Denver Sheriff's deputies at Denver Health. It's also been 2 weeks since we have been trying to get video of that escape, considering the Sheriff's Office's spotty record on owning up publicly when things go wrong. Both Denver Police and Denver Health will not release the video to the public. We've told you that, but we heard a new one today from Denver Health. They claim they can't show us the video because that man is their patient. It's a HIPAA violation. That's the federal law protecting patient privacy. Never mind the fact that, well, the cat got out of the bag when Mr. Venzor-Gonzalez did as well, the fact that he was there at that hospital for a medical appointment. So there you go. Can't see the escape video to protect him.
Do you care what your citizens are dealing with? Because it doesn't seem like it.
Denver today is backpedaling on a plan that would kick people out of their homes even if they didn't know that they were mistakenly getting into the city's affordable housing plan. We have been investigating and reporting on this for weeks. And as of Friday, Denver was defiant.
Your
the city
quote
was saying
admitted
it did nothing wrong to allow a quarter of its affordable houses to get into the wrong hands. And the city issued this tough letter telling people, listen, if you don't qualify, you're gone. We highlighted that tricky portion of the letter, which offered a 6-month grace period, but only if people admitted they were in violation and agreed to let the city kick them out in 6 months. Well, today, Mayor Hancock told our Brandon Ritteman that was the wrong approach. They're rewriting the letter.
First of all, we apologize. The language was unfortunate. You actually have more of a sympathetic, empathetic city. We certainly should have approached them differently. It's unfortunate. It's one of those details that we should have caught earlier. The reality is we caught it now. And the city is in a position to work with and a desire to work with each property owner.
But the goal here is trying to get them to come and sit down with you, and you're saying, that doesn't waive any of your rights. That doesn't waive any legal argument you might have.
No strings attached. Let's have the conversation. Let's figure this out going forward. The goal is not to remove people from their homes, but to make sure that we preserve it down the road.
Well, I think it's admirable to not want to boot someone out of a house they're happy with. I think that's an admirable goal. But the situation some folks find themselves in is they bought this house 3 or 4 years ago. The market has gone way up in that amount of time. And now if they left the home and had to sell it for the cap, they wouldn't have the down payment they would need to get that next home, that second home that they wanted to buy.
So you were really outlining the complexity of this challenge that we have here. One is we have a responsibility to make sure that we preserve the unit. At the other end, this individual is going to be penalized for no fault of their own.
The people who aren't bad actors, why can't you offer them any kind of promise about the...
Because it's a very legal, a promise that we're not going to remove them. We're going to do everything we can not to remove people from their properties. We're going to do everything we can to try to settle them so that they can move on with their lives. We understand this is a disruption, something that they didn't even suspect or expect in their lives.
City says it'll provide us with a copy of that new letter that goes out when they have a final draft. City leaders also say they're now looking at some options to keep people from being kicked out of their homes. Perhaps some alternatives like creating new affordable housing units to replace the ones that were mistakenly taken out of the program. And a side note, Mayor Hancock's facing a new lawsuit as of today from a frequent critic, Lisa Calderon. She says she lost her contract with the city when she spoke out against the mayor. Calderon is the director of a program that helps people who are incarcerated transition back into society. She says they lost their contract after she criticized the mayor and the sheriff for racial discrimination in the sheriff's office. Those Republican surveys we told you about Friday, the ones that look a bit like a census form, turns out that mailing list is about as specific as throwing a dart at a board. Republican National Committee in D.C. is sending out these official-looking forms called the 2018 Congressional District Census. Ask you things like, did you vote for President Trump? Has political correctness gotten out of hand? And you're all thinking, hey, that's not a census. We've heard from people who got them in Denver, Centennial, Parker, and Castle Rock. They're showing up in the mailboxes of Democrats and independents as well as Republicans. One sharp-eyed voter even brought to our attention there's a fundraising portion at the bottom, asked for $15 to help the processing of my census document. Tricky, tricky, RNC, but they're just looking to get data from you. All right, Governor Hickenlooper's making a trip to Iowa this week. Just another innocuous trip to Iowa, everybody. And we know this because he and Ohio Governor John Kasich are publicly slobbering all over each other on Twitter again. They are co-presidents of their Mutual Admiration Society. Here, in which Kasich kind of calls out Hickenlooper for going to Iowa. Hickenlooper adoringly calls out Kasich for going to New Hampshire. And look, there's little gifts. It's adorable. Get a ticket already, gentlemen. Hey, a friendly neighborhood reminder. Street sweeping starts Tuesday in Denver. You got to watch the signs. You're going to get one of those yellow tickets. $50. Not cheap. Leads us to our next question from a viewer named Betty. What do they do with the street sweepers' dirt? Is it cleaned, recycled, stored? It is? Well, we talked to Denver's stormwater quality manager today, who told us all the waste collected from the street sweepers is sent to the Denver Arapahoe disposal site. That landfill is apparently engineered to hold all the pollutants, the dirt, and the grime. It's protected from the environment that way. That landfill's in Aurora near Hamden and E470. That's also where leftover asbestos and biosolids and yard waste goes. Somebody told me in the grocery store the other day that they did not like something I said here. We had a good conversation. I cannot imagine facing your complaints or even your questions and having to respond, I don't really believe that. I was forced to say that. That would be a betrayal of the trust that I hope we've built. Like them or hate them, these words are my own. I own them. Sinclair is a company that owns almost 200 TV stations. Not this one, though they do want to buy 2 stations down the street in Denver. Maybe you've seen the video circulating of Sinclair forcing its anchors to read a media-bashing indictment of fake news. The problem isn't the words. It isn't Sinclair's conservative politics even. It is not the message. It's the method. Forcing words into the mouths of local journalists who have built relationships and trust in their communities is wrong. No journalist, no person should have to choose between their integrity and their income. If you think I'm wrong about this or anything, I want to hear from you, because it really is us having this conversation. I'll see you at the grocery store. In a moment, I will sit down with a candidate for governor who calls Denver a sedition city.
Hello, April, sunshine, 74, not a bad way to start the week. But then there's the clouds and the wind. What's that about? Well, the snow in the high country, all part of a weather system crossing the state tonight. I'm meteorologist Kathy Sabin. Our number today was about 20 degrees above average. Tomorrow it's going the other direction. Upper 60s, gusty northwest winds. We have red flag warnings out, high wind warnings. Some of those higher gusts of 50 and 60 miles per hour of some of the higher passes, all due in part to this weak front coming through. But the moisture with this front is limited. 1 to 4 inches of snow in the northern and central mountains. High pressure sets in as the system moves rapidly through by early tomorrow morning. Only isolated showers expected here in the city between about 9 p.m. and 2 o'clock in the morning. You've got a sunny day tomorrow, a little bit less wind, and temperatures will be a little cooler. It's going to be plenty cool tonight. 26 with isolated showers overnight and then clearing. The cloud deck is gone tomorrow. Sunshine, low 50s. We get that warming trend back in play for Wednesday and Thursday. I'm afraid there's a chance for showers. We welcome our Rockies home for the home opener on Friday. Showers linger into Saturday, but we have weekend high temperatures in the 60s, a trend that will continue for the first part of next week. Pretty nice in downtown Denver this hour, Kyle.
Kathy, thanks. Barry Farah wants to be the most conservative guy in the room, and the room is the one filled with GOP candidates for governor at the state convention later this month. Farah is a wealthy businessman from Colorado Springs who just got into the race. He saw Attorney General Cynthia Kaufman, who Farah calls a liberal, poised to come out of the convention at the top of the ticket.
Through the assembly, it's either most likely going to be her or myself, and I just felt like the assembly needed a conservative candidate.
You wouldn't have gotten in just to torpedo her chances of getting out of the assembly, would you?
No, I would not. I genuinely believe I have the best chance of all the other candidates to win in the general election. But if she was not in the assembly process, we may have had a little more restraint.
Farah has contributed to Attorney General Kaufman's past campaigns, but says that she has since moved to the left. Asked to name a policy on which he disagrees with the Republican frontrunner, Treasurer Walker Stapleton, Farah could not name one for me. Polling indicates that immigration is the #1 issue for Colorado's Republican primary voters, and on that, Farah issued some of the strongest language we've heard against Denver as a sanctuary city.
To me, it's not really a sanctuary, it's more of a sedition city. It's similar to when you, and maybe this seems extreme, but when we won the Civil War and we won the right for all citizens to be treated equally, there were some in the South that didn't agree with that. And they were doing the same thing that Mayor Hancock is doing now, violating federal law. Now, ultimately, federal law won, and they were all forced into complying.
Somebody watching is going to say, did Barry Farah just compare Mayor Hancock to whites in the South after the Civil War who fought to restrict blacks? Is that correct?
Well, that may be a little dramatic, but my suggestion is that we shouldn't be violating federal law and picking and choosing one federal law over another and saying, well, I'm more sanctimonious than this other person. And I'm saying, well, no, the guys in the South thought they were actually on the right side of the equation, and they weren't.
Our full conversation with Barry Farah is on the next YouTube channel. There we talk about how government is different than one of his businesses. Farah talks about customer loyalty versus loyalty to taxpayers. I encourage you to watch. It's online at youtube.com/next on 9 News. When Easter and April Fools overlapped, it went very poorly for some of your children. I love you people for that. That's next. Getting braces. An awkward rite of passage for many a teenager and the occasional news anchor who refused to get him as a kid and needed him at age 28. Anyway, fortunate families can afford braces. Ann Herbst introduces us to an orthodontist ensuring other kids who need the braces just as much have that same chance to smile.
But they were like, oh, you need braces. And I was like, okay.
Sitting in an orthodontist waiting room
getting braces
doesn't seem like the most thrilling way to spend the last day of spring break.
The smile, it could be better.
But these DPS sophomores are excited for a smile transformation.
Yeah, it's kind of janky.
You excited to get braces? You've been waiting for it for a while?
These kids are with Minds Matter Denver.
Turn your head all the way this way.
A mentoring program for high-achieving, low-income students that pushes them to reach their goals.
And has anyone in your family been in college?
No.
So you'll be the first one going to college?
Oh, I wanted to become a human rights lawyer.
I'm thinking I want to go work with kids.
I want to get into marine biology.
I'm going to make sure everything's perfect. I got to make sure your smile is dialed in by the time you're doing college interviews and when you're in college. Cool.
Dr. Anil Adikula at Eye Orthodontics.
Bite down. Have you ever had braces before?
Is helping 18 teenagers put their best faces forward.
There's no catches. There's no charge for retainers. There's no charge for anything. They get everything absolutely at no cost to them. We wanted to make sure that these students were not ashamed of their smile.
Make a perfect, good impression.
Just being able to comfortably smile and be confident with it, it goes a long way.
I think a smile is your biggest weapon in a good way, a good weapon. This is something that I think can empower you.
And that will be worth the wait.
We'll see you back in the next month or so. We'll get the braces on and we'll go from there.
For Next, this is Ann Herbst.
Every student that's been in that Minds Matter Denver program has gone to college with scholarships, and now with straight teeth. The most Colorado thing we saw today is the man we'll call the tree whisperer. He doesn't do the whispering, he does the listening. Biologist David George Haskell has traveled the world listening to trees. He told us he thinks that he's identified the song of every species of tree. The song is composed of how the wind goes through the tree, what noise the water makes hitting the leaves or needles, even sounds inside a tree that he listens to with an ultrasonic detector.
To get a glimpse inside the hidden life inside of a tree was really quite a, of course, there's quite an emotional experience. There's some intellectual satisfaction in that, but also it's gazing into the heart, if you like, of the other. There's other species that has a very dynamic life. A tree looks very stationary and still, but in fact inside there's all sorts of changes happening. And the fact that we can't perceive them without the help of technology doesn't mean that the changes aren't there. It just means that the dynamism of a tree is hidden. We need to work a little bit harder to open our imagination to what's happening inside the tree.
If you're thinking, hey, that tree language guy's speaking my language, Haskell is speaking about the songs of trees. See you, Boulder, Old Main, tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Lectures open to the public. Your Easter egg hunts on April Fool's Day went about as well for your children as we would expect. That's next. Kids, you gotta check the calendar. Easter and April Fools overlapped yesterday. You should have expected what a group of kids got up in Erie. 9-year-old Michaela and 6-year-old Kylie went over to a neighbor's house for an Easter egg hunt yesterday. Look at that, they look so happy, right? Because they haven't opened the eggs yet. Easter Fools was waiting around the corner, and about a quarter of the eggs were filled with rocks and ketchup packets. Michaela and Kylie were not feeling it at this point. Their mom, Debbie Marr, sent us these pictures and knew that everybody at home would really enjoy them. Poor Kylie, this is worse. It's her birthday, too. She shares a birthday with April Fools and then the Easter eggs. I'm told the girls got lots of candy and chocolate. They're fine. Don't call Child Protective. It's all fine. We finished with your feedback, and lots of you want to talk about Sinclair forcing its news anchors to read the media bashing indictment of fake news. Lee Newman says, as a retired news director, totally agree with your comments. I would resign before forcing my staff to read those stupid editorials. Kate Snap says, though you may not know me from Adam on the Street, we welcome you into our home. You MC charity events, engage with the community. We appreciate you using your words and taking ownership of them. Here's the thing. All of those Sinclair anchors do the exact same thing. They didn't deserve this. See you next time.